And I'm so delighted to have a chance to talk with you today, to ask your questions. I may ask you a few questions. Um, and I'm so looking forward to it. And just so you know, your Downingtown STEM Academy is the building that was my Downingtown Junior High School, where I moved from the Westchester School District to the Downingtown School District in 8th grade. So I spent 8th grade in the building where you are, and then moved on to Downingtown High School when there was only one high school in Downingtown, and that is now Downingtown West. So it's wonderful to see you. So I understand that you may have some questions that you'd like to ask me, and then I may have a couple for you. Olivia, Rishon, who has a question you would like to start us off with?
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
So my first question was about, regarding the COVID pandemic, and we've been plagued with this for quite a while. And so I just wanted to hear your thoughts about how the lockdowns and the restrictions are affecting the mental health of those people locked up, because there's been a large increase in, mental health disorders and
Yes.
suicidal thoughts and substance abuse. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you, Rishon. Yeah, there have been so many things that have impacted individuals and families and businesses during the pandemic. And as you so wisely said, all of us have suffered, our mental health has suffered the stress of not being able to go to school in person for most of our students, individuals and parents not being able to go to work, and being at home, hopefully being able to work remotely, but not everybody. So this has been a situation where everyone has been suffering from a very unusual and persistent stress. And stress management is a very important part, a very important skill for each of us to learn, regardless of whether there's a pandemic. Life is complicated. There are a lot of stresses, whether it's in, challenges in school or friendships or family relationships, our own expectations of ourselves and so on. But I think the pandemic has really shown us and given us an opportunity to talk openly about how we manage stress, what are the services available to us. There is now for teens in Chester County, there is a call number for to be able to talk with someone about any concern, any mental health problem, anything, any stress that is coming up that you would like to talk about. And this is coming, of course, out of the awareness of the pervasive mental health challenges that young people and adults, all of us are experiencing as a result of the pandemic, and that many of us, we're all experiencing this all at once. But when there's not a pandemic, there are still a lot of stresses in our lives, and learning who we can talk with, how to articulate and recognize the feelings, some of the things we can do to reduce stress. And certainly one of them is talking with someone, sometimes a professional, sometimes a friend or a parent or a teacher. So thank you for bringing that up. So important to be able to talk about our full wellness, our physical and our mental health, um, and just underscored even more by the pandemic. Yeah. Olivia, do you have a question?
I was wondering, why did you choose politics?
Well, that's a very good question. I was a teacher, and I loved teaching, and I loved learning about things. And in teaching, you're a public servant. You're there, helping. I worked in the Octorara School District in the public schools for 12 years. And I've always wanted to be in a position where I can help people grow, get information they need, and make their own lives and our communities better. So education was a great place for me to start. And then years later, after my children were born and off to college, in trying to decide what my next career path might be, a position opened on Westchester Borough Council. And I talked with many people to try and consider, would this be a good next step for me? And so I decided to run for Borough Council, and I found that it was a very good fit. I had been working for about 10 years with a nonprofit educational NGO at the United Nations focused on health and environment. And so I was able to use my educational skills there. I learned a lot about diplomacy, and that's better. And I wondered, would I expand my work at the United Nations, or would I work more locally on Borough Council? And I still do work with the organization at the United Nations, and I have invited over 2,000 young people to our annual conference, Health and Environment Conference at the UN. So I've continued that work, but I decided to take what I had learned at the United Nations and think globally and act locally. You've heard that adage before. And so I have found that I love being able to work here at the local level, and now also at the state level. So as a state senator now, and of course I then became mayor of Westchester, and I loved having that opportunity to serve. And then mayor was term limited. So after 2 terms, 8 years, I had to decide, would I continue serving in a political capacity? And I thought, well, I would really love to be able to continue working with people I had met and relationships, I was building, and serve at the state level, and also keep working at the local level, because as a state representative and now as a state senator, we work to pass laws, solve problems, and pass laws at the state level that impact everyone in Pennsylvania. And then I also have a district office here in Chester County. It's in Westchester, where we help all of the people in our district with whatever needs they might have. For example, Rishon, if a student had a question or a concern, a mental health concern, they didn't know who to go to or what to do, they could call our office in Westchester, and my staff and I will help connect people with the help and the services that they need. Or if someone lost their job during the pandemic and they needed to get unemployment insurance and then perhaps training and connection for a new job, they can call our office and we will help them. So there are many, many things that that we do to help people at the local level. So what I love about my job now and in the State House is that I can work on solving problems that impact all the people of Pennsylvania, help improve people's lives across Pennsylvania. But I also get to still do the work that I loved doing as a borough council member and as a mayor, being really close to the people and helping people in our own community, local communities every day. Yeah. So it's a good fit for me, Olivia. You know, I always say, you know, it's important to lead with our gifts and choose what we love. And sometimes you don't know when you try something new. But as I said, I talk with a lot of people before I make any of my decisions to decide, is this something where my gifts will be of good use? And is it something that I will really enjoy? And fortunately, the answer is yes to both of those things in my role in the Pennsylvania legislature. Thank you. Rishon, did you have another question?
Yeah, and I think that now that I've learned a little more about you, I think this question will be even more useful since you have that background in education. So I think one of the major problems with education today is that it's hard to connect with the students. The students are not as engaged, and that was especially seen in the pandemic where we couldn't be in school, and it was doubly hard to connect with students and have them engage in the activities going on in school. So
Yeah.
how do you think moving forward we can make education more engaging for the students? Because it is something that's very important moving forward, because the children are the next generation. So how do you think that we can create a school environment that's more engaging?
What a great question. And again, what a wonderful opportunity that has come out of this pandemic to rethink education, right? Education was offered and conducted in, I mean, there's always new things that, you know, that are coming to our schools, and our teachers and administrators are always looking to improve curricula and delivery of programs and so on. But the pandemic threw everything up in the air. And suddenly you're not in school anymore. You're you know, working, most students working from home remotely on a laptop or an iPad. And so everything that we thought was the traditional part of education got turned on its head. So I don't know what new ideas will emerge from the experience of the pandemic and from the opportunity of seeing we don't have to engage in education in all of the same traditional ways as we used to do, because we just spent over a year doing it completely differently. And we've learned so much. So what you know, my question back to you would be, how do you think we might explore how to make education more relevant, more meaningful, more exciting to you and other young people moving forward, because we are shaping your future. And you just had the experience also of, you know, a completely different educational experience. So as we put everything back together again, what do you think we could do, and how could students help inform that?
I think for starters, I think we need to like be ready for that change, because I don't think that, and we saw this again coming back to that pandemic, we weren't really ready for the change. It was abrupt, it was very fast, and it came very quickly, and nobody was really ready for it. So I think we need to first prepare ourselves that something does need to change, because the current way of doing things is not working to its full potential. And then the next thing is really, I think, going and talking to students and seeing how they feel about it, because I may have a personal view on how we should do things, but there's millions of other students out there who have their own individual viewpoints. So I think we need to get out there and see what needs to change. And then I just say make it more fun, because I think there's been in the past, there's been, some traditional ways of schooling kids, standing up at the front of the classroom and just lecturing the whole period. But I think as the world changes, as technology evolves, as people and culture changes, those same cultures and those same methods won't always work. And so we're seeing a new generation of kids becoming more fast-paced. They're not watching or indulging in things that take a long time. They're looking at things that take 15, 30 seconds or a minute max, and then they're moving on to the next thing. So I think that's something where we can explore in making education more interactive and engaging in quicker ways.
That's a very, very interesting thought, Rishon. Olivia, what do you think? And Rishon, what do you think? Do you think it would be helpful, maybe in this forum, future conversation with students? Maybe we could invite some students, probably high school, age. We could certainly do younger, but, I think high school age, from some of the different school districts, and maybe get a not too large a group, but a larger group for a Zoom. I mean, it's convenient, right? And everybody's used to doing that. And if you're from different school districts around Chester County and you're very busy, it might be a good format, especially as we're still sort of emerging from the pandemic here. Do you think it would be helpful to have a conversation with some of the students about what they learned during the pandemic and how they think education could be modified and improved moving forward? Do you think would that be good? Would you be interested in participating in something like that?
Yeah, perhaps. I think it's a good idea. I don't know if I would be the best person to be there, but I definitely think that's a good idea.
I think you would be a great person to have there. Olivia, what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I would think it'd be a good opportunity for students to come together and talk about this, because everyone sees this from a different standpoint. For example, like some people may really enjoy online learning because they don't have to go and present themselves to other people on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
some people may find it very boring and can't really focus as much, so they may need to go in person. So I think it would be a good idea to like collaborate on that and maybe find a way that education could be more fun and interesting to everyone.
Yes, very good. So, well, thank you, Rishon and Olivia. I'm very